In June 2007, a group of community volunteers from Kenmore and Tonawanda, New York, came together with their camcorders and spent some time videotaping the people, places, and happenings of the Kenton area. They came back with some fascinating pictures and wonderful stories. This is Our Town Kenmore, Tonawanda. Broadcast of Our Town Kenmore, Tonawanda is made possible by the generous support of Wynwood of Kenmore, an assistive living community designed to provide housing, personal care, and services to older adults who want to retain their independence while receiving daily support from a caring, trained staff. And by the members of WNED. Thank you.
I'm Dennis Uminski. I've lived in Kenmore for 39 years, and the topic I chose was the Tonawanda waterfront. Tonawanda is an Indian word for fast water or swift water, and we're bounded by about 4 miles of Niagara River shoreline on the west side, and by about 4 or 5 miles of canal on the north side, if you count the city of Tonawanda. The Grand Island Bridge dominates the waterfront. There are some skeletons along the river of the industrial past of Tonawanda, and they sort of add to the character of the waterfront. Commercial vessels on the Niagara River are getting rarer and rarer all the time. I managed to get a shot from the water of the Karen Andre pushing a numbered petroleum barge. As the industries have relocated away from the river, there's more and more recreational boating access. I went down to the Tonawanda Harbor, which is about a mile from the Buffalo City line. I was impressed by the increase in the number of kayaks on the river. Rivers can be a challenge because of the current and the wind. Then I moved a little south and photographed the fishing pier just off the water filtration plant. I saw some young men who had beached their kayaks and a couple of fishermen off the riprap on the shore. Isle View Park goes up along the shoreline through the city of Tonawanda. It was Saturday morning, and there were a good number of hikers out there. There's a big difference between boating on the river and the canal. On the river, you can have wind, you have current. On the canal, you've got sheltered water and tranquility. Ellicott Creek flows through the town of Tonawanda and terminates in the city at the canal. It's become very, very popular now for leisure time activities. There's a houseboat rental place on the canal. Ellicott Creek goes through Ellicott Creek Park. Once you get into the park, it's only navigable by kayak and a canoe, and there is a rental place for bicycle-type paddle boats, a few kayaks, and an electric boat.
Just hold on to that railing for a minute, Dad.
I'm a licensed vessel captain and also a volunteer member of the Coast Guard Auxiliary. I just hope that these scenes draw people closer to this waterfront. There's only so much waterfront in the United States, and we're fortunate that we have a good deal of it. People are just out there enjoying this beautiful river we have.
My name's John Migliore, and I chose the town of Tonawanda Aquatics. My daughter was at the Tonawanda Aquatic Center one day and came home and said, "Dad, I want to try the dancing in the water thing." My daughter's been swimming with them for 5 years now. I never imagined it would do for my daughter what it has. It's an elite synchronized swim team. They range in age from 6 to 18. They practice 3 hours a day, 5 days a week. Their season's 10 months long.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8.
These girls they practice, practice, practice. And they work very hard. It's a cross between ballet, dancing, aerobics, mixed with music, in a pool. Sports Illustrated called it the hardest sport there is to do. You have to be the most athletic. The girls do it and they make it look effortless with a smile. They always place in the top 10 nationally. They have to qualify through their districts and so forth, and then it's the best swimmers in the country. And you'll have girls from every state there. There might be a couple duets and some trios and some solos, and then there's the team of 8, and they kind of pair them together for the year. And what happens is those girls, they become real close friends, really friends for life. They say, oh, that's my duet partner. They work real hard. They learn how to organize their time. They learn about teamwork. They learn about how to win and lose with dignity. The coaches give corrections, and the girls have learned to take corrections, where a lot of kids don't like that. These girls have learned over the years that, okay, if I don't learn how to take them, I'm not going to get them, and if I don't get corrections, I'm not going to improve. The program itself is wonderful. I think it's a hidden jewel in the town that people don't know about. They're very well known in the synchronized swimming community.
From the Tonawanda Aquatics, Julia.
This is a team that they don't just go to, say the states and do well. They compete on a national level consistently for the last 45, 46 years and do very well. This is a fantastic program through and through.
My name is Marylin Brown. I'm president of the Town Kenmore Historical Society, and that's my topic. We started with St. Peter's Church on Kanaki Road. It was built in 1847, and the German Evangelical and Reformed denomination left in the 1960s, and we took it over in 1976 as our historical museum. The marker out in front states that it is the oldest Protestant congregation in the area. The companion to it is over on Englewood at the North Bush Chapel. Our first exhibit was Gus. Gus is the nickname that we gave a mannequin that we have in a barn/workshop exhibition there. We have a wonderful collection of wood planes from the 18th century. One of our other exhibits is the desk that belonged to Dr. Parkhurst, who was our first historian. And over the desk is one of the original lights that lit the church. We have a great research center. The commemorative window depicts Father Newman. We have a collection of Curtiss airplanes that were made at plants here in the town of Tonawanda. We have a diorama of the Erie Canal. We have a Kenmore living room from the turn of the century. We have a nice collection of stained glass that came out of some of the old homes in the area. The Eberhard home, when it was demolished, the sign was taken down and it was given to us. We also have the medallion from the Kenmore Post Office. In the cemetery, we have very, very old 1870, 1880 tombstones. The North Bush area is on Englewood, right near Highland. It's the property that's adjacent to St. John the Baptist Roman Catholic Church. Father Newman has been canonized by the Roman Catholic Church as a saint now, so there is a beautiful statue over there. He wrote that at night, when it was quiet, he could hear the roar of Niagara Falls. If you stop and realize the silence, And those days, you could hear Niagara Falls from our area. Well, I think everybody in our town should be aware of the history and learn a little bit more about the people that walked the roads and the lanes before we became a suburb of Buffalo.
My name is Kaetlyn McGee, and the topic I chose was the SPCA. The SPCA is on Emsminger. They have a park where they walk their dogs, and they have like a path that goes along, and the path has memory stones that say like in memory of like then the dog's name or like the animal's name. Last summer I found a bird and a rabbit, and they were kind of hurt or whatever, so I brought them to the Wildlife Center of the SPCA, and I wanted to learn more about like the place and how they take care of their animals. The petting farm is a place where they have like farm animals. It's kind of like a barn, and they have pens, and they had a pig that weighed 600 pounds, and it actually escaped a roast, a pig roast. It said on the sign. I thought that was kind of funny. They had some sheep there, and they also had llamas that didn't spit on me. There was another worker feeding horses, and she opened the pen and they were running outside, and this one horse was like all crazy because he was excited to get out. They have an adoption wing. There were cats in cages that were up for adoption. There were a couple, I think, boxers and German Shepherd. There was this one Pacific dog, and it was just happy to see me, and it was really cute. I went to the gift shop. They had a lot of cat toys, and they also had a lot of dog food. They also had a lot of trinkets that you could buy that says like, I love my Doberman or my mutt or something like that. I went to the main room, and they had some hamsters, a couple of displays of the rabbits, and they actually had 2 turtles. I learned that the SPCA is solely funded by grants and donations. They get like all their food and all of the supplies that they need to take care for their animals just by donations, which I think is really nice because people care about the animals that are in their neighborhood, and then they actually donate money to take care of them.
I'm Jeff Floss. I was born and raised in Kenmore, and I'm very proud of it. And the topic I chose was the restaurants of Kenmore. And the first restaurant I did was Jinlan, a Chinese restaurant. When you go inside, it's a very beautiful place. They have these gorgeous paintings and gorgeous statues, and it's just beautiful artwork. It's almost like an art exhibit in its way. It's a family-owned restaurant. The people are very nice. The next restaurant, Pfleger. It's kind of a Greek restaurant. They've been around for 14 years. The people who run it are very friendly. They love what they're doing, and they're very nice people. Its biggest time is on Sunday. We go there all the time after church. It's so great to see all the people in the village really come together, and I think that restaurant brings a lot of people together. I went to Condrell's. It's kind of an ice cream parlor, even though they sell chocolates too. One of the things I always love there were they have these things called Charlie Chaplins, and it's this big chocolate thing, but it's filled with marshmallows and nuts, and the way they mix it together is really great. It tastes terrific, and it's a great little store. The last place I went was Watson's. They are most famous for their sponge candy because it's the best sponge candy in Buffalo. The interesting thing about it is it used to be the Watson's restaurant, just a restaurant that served food, but then on the side they started serving candy, and they started to become really famous for that. 15 years ago, Pfleger bought the restaurant, so Watson's decided to just become a candy store. The granddaughter of Mr. Watson, who started the business, is now running the company, and they're a huge success story. It's really become a part of Kenmore. Well, I wanted to include restaurants I was somewhat familiar with, places I've been to before, established restaurants, restaurants that have really become a part of this town.
My name is Suzanne Pfleger, and I've lived in the town most of my life. I moved back to the town as an adult when I first bought my house. I wanted my daughter to grow up experiencing a lot of the same fun things that I did from the town of Tonawanda. I was a cheerleader. My brother played Little League baseball, hockey, and football. My family was very involved. My stepdad was a coach for all three sports. So we were constantly at the ice rink, at the ball diamond, at the football field. And now my daughter plays softball and has played soccer and has signed up for basketball. She plays for the Blue Devils, pigtail softball. The town of Tonawanda and Kenmore are very strong advocates of youth recreation. There's a lot of volunteer time and effort spent allowing children to participate in a variety of sports. There's plenty to do. There's Crosby track field. It's a beautiful field with the football field in the center, basketball courts on the side. There's 3 pools in the town. Lincoln Pool just opened now that school is out, and it'll remain open all summer long. I remember as a kid taking synchronized swimming lessons there, lifeguard training. That was the place to go, meet up with your friends, and spend the entire day. The youth recreation and the sports are huge in this town. It's a real passion to a lot of the residents. Just always something to do and positive activities for children.
I'm Peter Pavlakis, and I chose to film the bike path and the river next to it. It looks really nice. I thought it'd be fun to shoot. At one point, before the bridge, there are a lot of industrial plants around there. But after you get past the bridge, it's more nature-like. You know, the area along the Niagara River. It's really pretty. It's very green, lots of trees. It's a nice place to relax. A lot of people with their families, bikers, rollerbladers, and just people by themselves taking a stroll. I tried to get a whole variety of shots showing the area, how beautiful the bike path is. The sense that it's a nice place to spend some time, I think it's important in that respect.
My name is Becky Elliott. I picked historical homes in the Canton area. I'm extremely interested in the architecture, the families, the history of the homes. The Eberhardt Mansion is one of the oldest places in Kenmore. There was actually 2 of them originally built in 1893 by Fred Eberhardt and his brother, LPA. And they built matching mansions for something like $15,000 apiece. Unfortunately, one of the homes was demolished in the 1970s. They're just majestic. And to me, that one house, which is now the Jack Hunt Coin Building, says, you know, we're in the village of Kenmore. It's a noticeable landmark. Robert Zimmerman was one of the original 5 brothers who purchased a large amount of land in the Tonawanda area. His house was built in 1840 at 785 Delaware. It's a gorgeous old house. It still has the original well in the side yard that's made out of stone, and a single-family home still being lived in. And then I worked my way down Delaware Road. Robert Zimmerman purchased the schoolhouse in the 1920s and moved it to its current location, 833 Delaware Road, to use it as a bunkhouse for all of his workers on the farms. A family by the name of McCormick purchased the house in 1939. Their son inherited the house from them, and he married a woman who still lives there today. 871 Delaware was the original foreman's home from the Frank Zimmerman farm. There's a large carriage stone that says Zimmerman on the front of it. When the carriage would pull up to the foreman's house, they would stop at this stone so the ladies wouldn't step in the mud, and then they could walk on into the house, and that's still there. This house is currently owned by John and Kim LaRock. They purchased the house in 2004. They were at a garage sale. The woman who owned the house prior to them had a garage sale, and she went to the sale, and she fell in love with the house. And they have fixed it up like you wouldn't believe. It's absolutely beautiful. It looks very welcoming. They've kept it true to the period. It's lovely. It's my favorite. 33 Delaware Road. It was built by architect Dwayne Lyman in 1933. It's the only Art Deco home that we have in the village, built to match the municipal building, which is right across the street. The Henry Birdwetzel home. It was on the corner of Delaware and Knowlton in the village of Kenmore. It was moved in 1910 to its present location at 136 Warren Avenue. Annie Giuetti bought it with her parents in 1982. She fell in love with this house, and it was in rough shape. She just worked her heart out, and the whole time keeping it original. Kenton has such a vast variety of homes. They've done so much to these houses, you know, so lovingly restored them. It's the reason I bought my house here, because of the people. They're friendly, they're welcoming, they'll help you. You know, there's no other place like it on earth.
My name is Cindy Cozad. I've lived in the town for a very long time. And the topic I chose today is Senior Citizen Center on Ensminger Road that serves Kenmore and Tonawanda. Every day from 8:30 to 4:30, there's something going on.
That goes right there.
When I was there, they were doing a sewing class. A small group of women were working, trying to develop this gorgeous looking little pincushion and having a lot of fun to boot. Every day there's some kind of card group going on. Pinochle, bridge parties, canasta, and I'm looking forward to being 60 at some point because I've always wanted to know how to play bridge. The China painting class. That is run by an 81-year-old woman who's got the most steady hand I've ever seen. People gravitated to the ceramics. Packed house majority of the days. What do I know about working? Not much, but it's a very happy place with a lot of projects. There was one gentleman working on looked like a rack for an Afghan or quilts. The pool boys. I love the pool boys. That's usually the place where all the men go, is the pool room. And they have their different games that they play on the pool table. I've never seen such a game of table tennis. I wouldn't want to go up against these guys. Here's George. He plays the organ. He actually plays during the mealtime sometimes. And he's awesome. And then they had this wonderful choral group. Their morning exercise classes, feet movements, counting, clapping, and then it moves into there was one where they were using a ball. Out of nowhere, they have like an open mic session.
And for cartridge computer ink fluid, it would cost $5,200 for a gallon. Wow. So be glad that your car does not run on water, scope, whiteout, Pepto-Bismol, NyQuil, or heaven forbid, printer's ink.
And it was wonderful. It was such a break from going from exercise to this interlude of, hysterical moments, back to exercise. I love Tai Chi class. What a lovely ballet in motion. The yoga class, it's a de-stressing mode. I think we could all use a little yoga and Tai Chi in our lives.
For instance, there would be a little bit of a shadow.
The one thing about the seniors, they have not stopped living. I tended to think I was going to go in there and see a lot of canes and walkers, and it wasn't that.
Hi, I'm Gloria Lorber, and I chose public and private gardens. The town takes pride in providing nice settings, I think, for the residents.
Congratulations for another year. Well done.
I went to the greenhouse. This is where the town grows all the plants that they put out on the streets. In Kenmore, they have the planters, petunias just flowing over the sides. You know how busy Sheridan Drive is, but the town does plant the medians all the way down from Military up to Belmont. Men of the Lions Club built this trail in Ellicott Creek Park, and it was supposed to be accessible to blind people so that they would get a feel for the trees and the smell of the flowers. Men from the Lions Club go and prepare the ground, and the women from the Garden Club plant it every year. I think people take pride in their homes here, and it shows in their gardens. A lot of them are in the garden walk that the town has in August. One on Delaware Road near Paramount. Absolutely beautiful garden. It's 25 years old. So I guess in order to get something that well established, it takes time. In the St. Amelia area, I think their name is Zimmerman. Absolutely gorgeous. They have brick paths going through the yard that leads from one garden to the next. Every variety of annual and perennial that you can imagine. And I said, what do you do besides garden? And practically nothing. People put more in their gardens than just the plants and flowers. They decorate them. I noticed that a lot of people that didn't have the stumps removed were using them. In the one place on Parker, it was like a little couch. It's just so relaxing. And it's so satisfying. You can see the results of what you're doing right then and there when you're planting something and then watching it grow. I enjoy it. I live in the garden and I sleep in the house, I guess.
I'm Adamczyk, and my topic is the car culture on Sheridan Drive in Tonawanda. There was a time when Sheridan Drive was not full of SUVs and minivans and shopping malls. It was a street that, whether the engineers knew it or not, was dedicated to young people and their cars. They built this road in 1925 across farmland, an east-west road that ran from River Road to Niagara Falls Boulevard, and then it hooked up with another road and went out to Clarence. People considered it a real extravagance when they built it. It was long, it was wide, it was deserted, it was more or less flat. It was perfect for drag racing. The post-war culture included the car culture, and this is where it grew in Western New York. These mom and pop soda stands grew up along Sheridan. The very first Anderson's Custards is on Sheridan, still is. The second, Ted's Hot Dogs, and other places where kids with cars would hang out. They're gone now. Chemets, Brinson's, Pat's Drive-In. This was the place where kids with cars would go to show off, to hang out, to to drag race in the streets. By the late 60s, early 70s, people were bringing cars in trailers to unload and do nothing but race in the street. I was at a car show a couple of weeks ago, and a man was pointing out which ones were racers on Sheridan Drive. Nowadays, on a Sunday night, you go to the Dunkin' Donuts at Sheridan and Belmont, and they're all there. They're like ghosts coming back to haunt Sheridan Drive. The second topic, which I think is an important thing to know about Kenmore and Tonawanda, is the story of the Kenmore Municipal Building, the City Hall of Kenmore. It's on a triangular piece of land where Delaware Road meets Delaware Avenue. First of all, it's a heck of a piece of architecture. It was designed by E.B. Green, the noted Buffalo architect, who's designed about 200 buildings in Buffalo, and very few in that modernist 1930s style. It is very old-fashioned looking, very futuristic looking, in a Buck Rogers kind of way, and monumental. And I think the idea is to make it look like there are matters of gravity going on in there. Important stuff is happening in that building. The big window on the front of the building has this Art Deco sort of piece in front of it. Makes the place look very distinctive. Out in front is a small stretch of green. It's called the Village Green. It's a place for concerts. It's a place for weddings. And we've got a few war memorials over there. One that went up in 1919 for the Great War, one for World War II, one for Korea and Vietnam, one for Desert Storm. The inside's incredible. Iron work all over the place, marble floors, marble walls, and a couple of semi-permanent bulletin boards where local residents have tacked up photographs of their friends and relatives from Kenmore who are currently in Iraq and Afghanistan. It's a lot more temporary. It's also a lot more personal. It's a remarkable piece of architecture. Other towns just don't have anything like this. While I was busy prowling around the municipal building, my wife was concentrating on something Kenmore has in abundance: churches. Kenmore is not a particularly old community. 1899 is when it went into business. It was not long before every denomination one could think of started building churches there. Kenmore and Tonawanda have 33 churches and 2 synagogues. That's a lot. There are 6 of them in a 3/4 stretch of Delaware Road. The churches are an important part of the community. They are an important part of the lives of the residents.
Hi, my name is Cindy Havey, and I grew up in the town of Tonawanda, and I am now raising a family in the town of Tonawanda. And my subject is the schools. The balance of the buildings were mostly built in the late 50s. There was a huge building surge back then. The little K-3 schools, they aren't there on the main roads. They're tucked away in these little neighborhoods, and so you would never even know that they were there unless you had gone to school there or if you lived in that neighborhood. I was able to catch field days at 3 of the elementary schools, and it's the last hurrah for the year for the kids. There's been a huge change in both the population of the community and the schools that are in use right now. If you go take a look at Kenmore West now, and that's the one that's had the largest capital improvement, I would say. They've got a beautiful new library wing and a beautiful new athletic facility there. It's just clear that people are taking care of their schools and they're loving them. When I was growing up in the 60s and 70s, there were 26 active schools, and now there are 13. I just wanted to capture where we are now and have it as a reminder of what it was like back then. The entire community has changed over the past 40 years. The old Robert Frost is now a senior citizen center. A couple of the schools have been taken over by People Inc. A number of special needs schools in the community were the old public schools, and there are a couple community centers like Betsy Ross is now a community center. The only one I couldn't capture was Jane Addams. The school was raised and they're building senior citizens patio homes over there. You know, it's all a part of the community, and they've been able to turn those into something to benefit all, which is originally the intent of the schools anyways. It's to help everybody.
My name is Richard Szczepaniec. I've been a town resident for 35 years now, and my topic is the Erie Canal as it relates to the town of Tonawanda. I started at the commercial slip in downtown Buffalo because that is where the Erie Canal ended in 1825. Then I went to Squaw Island, the Turn Bridge, and I took a picture of the Buffalo Harbor because that was the fight at the time, whether it would be Buffalo for the terminus of the canal or Black Rock. If the canal ended at Black Rock Harbor, you still had to get the lake boats up the river to fight that 12-mile current. So by dredging Buffalo Creek and providing the break wall, Buffalo made a harbor. The canal could go all the way to Buffalo. The canal in those days is gone from Tonawanda to Buffalo because the barge canal took its place. It's a recreation facility now. Basically, it's a bike path. It's Isle Park, Tonawanda Park. And I think if everybody's familiar with Old Man River and Mississippi muds, as you walk along the canal up to the path there, you're walking on the old canal bed. At the end of the 1800 era, city of Tonawanda, North Tonawanda, they were the lumber capitals of the world. Lumber came in from the Midwest. It was sawed up, stacked along Isle Park, Tonawanda Park, also on the North Tonawanda side of the river, anywhere from 14 to 20 feet high for 7 miles along the river. Economically, it was very important to Western New York and the town of Tonawanda. A little further down River Road, the canal bed still exists. It's filled in, but the towpath is still there. I have always been fascinated by the Erie Canal. In fact, last summer I followed it from Albany all the way back to Buffalo. It opened up the country to immigration, trade, and it made it economical and efficient way of migration and transporting goods and services both directions. And all that history passed through our town.
Hi, I'm Stephanie Kothen, and I chose the topic music. People were like, oh, you should do marching bands and, you know, local bands and stuff like that for music. School just ended and summer band hasn't started, and then it's just like, oh, what are they setting up down there? It's Brighton Field Days. I love old music. We went to the Record Baron on Delaware. He specializes in LP vinyl and cassette tapes and 45s. People come in with boxes of records and leave with boxes of records. Frisbees specializes in buying and selling used CDs and DVDs. You can get more unique things, and it's kind of a neat place to go. Paramount Music opened in the 50s as Paramount Accordion. It was an accordion store. They give lessons and they sell musical instruments and accessories. I went to Kenmore Music on Delaware. They do repairs and sell instruments. They get lessons in the back.
Let's do it arpeggiated, C.
Sometimes kids will be waiting around for lessons and then they'll just jam together. Select Sound Studio was founded in 1997 by William Kothen, Charles Kothen, and Dick Bowerly. They're recorded for Simple Plan and DMX.
Okay, one of the things we already covered this semester.
There's 6 classes you can take.
Anytime you turn EQ, you got to be careful because this will affect your overall output.
So they cover most of the recording field. Alan Krysak did the score for a Turner Classic Silent film, and I recorded him in session. I really do think music is very important. And Kenmore and Tonawanda is actually very filled with musical talent.
I'm Deborah McGee, and I chose to do the farmers market, which is in Kenmore. It's located at the Village Green where the municipal building is, right in the heart of the village of Kenmore. It's a nice place to just hang out.
Strawberries and some peas. All right, 1 and 1.
There was a lot of variety of different fruits, vegetables.
Yeah, it's early yet. This is like all early crops.
She had flowers. Strawberries were huge. Everyone was buying those. People just walking up and down the street, I guess, you know, doing their errands or taking their walks, you know, would have to stop and, you know, buy something. I saw a lot of regular customers. The lady had told me that some of them actually wait for her to pull up because they love her homemade pies, which I think she was selling rhubarb that day. I would have liked to get one of those pies, though. They looked really good. It runs Saturdays, and I think it runs from June until October. It's a great place to go and, you know, bring their kids and just, you know, get some fresh fruit and vegetables.
My name is Justin Brylinski.
And I'm John Brylinski, and the topic we chose is parks and playgrounds. Sheridan Park that's where I grew up.
Well, one thing that I was surprised about was it's bigger than you expect. There's a golf course, and there's a few different diamonds for baseball or softball, and there's actual ponds, so there's like nature and sports.
And our attention was directed over to Light Standard, where there's a great blue heron. It sort of almost looked like he was watching the game. We progressed to Kenny Field. It's a smaller park. Some kids were playing ultimate frisbee. It used to be alongside a railroad track. I, as a kid, played Little League ball there, and the trains were always an exciting aside to watch trains go by while you weren't playing. There's also a naval cougar, famous part of the Kenny playground.
They used to have it so you could actually go into the cockpit, but they sealed it over.
It was part of a move by the military that could be displayed for civic pride. The town took advantage. It was never in conflict, but it was part of the first Blue Angels. Brighton Park is another golf course at the park. It's the most played golf course in Western New York. There's a driving range that's very active. There's also batting cages there. There is a pool, which was empty, hadn't been filled yet. The boat harbor, it's located at the foot of Sheridan. Many times a very active boat launch. But there's fishermen. They weren't catching anything, but they seem to be having a good time anyway. Isleview Park overlooks Grand Island. It's a county park, and it also has a boat launch. Isleview gives you a different perspective. You know, you can swing on the swings and almost feel like you could leap into the water. Ellicott Creek Park. I was surprised at the abundance of the wildlife that was there.
I don't think I've ever seen a bluebird other than in like pictures, but they're actually really quite blue, like bluer than you'd expect.
Lincoln Park was a lot of fun. There was a lot of activity, a lot of baseball games going on, and some basketball players. Once they found out that we were there, they seemed rather interested in showing us how skillful they could be.
Oh, no.
I've always felt that the parks and playgrounds have been what makes the town of Tonawanda a great place to grow up.
I didn't realize there were so many parks. There's a lot of open areas, a lot of it's in reach to actually walk to or ride your bike.
My name is Carol Horvath, and I decided to pick the topic Art in the Town. Marge Donovan is a wonderful watercolorist who lives in the area. She teaches beginning watercolor classes. Bob Jumper, he's done some nice oil paintings. He's particularly known for his cartoons. But his big forte to me is doing caricatures. I mean, he does them on the spot. He's very, very clever, and the one is supposed to be me, and I love it because it doesn't really look like me. I have a much prettier nose in the cartoon. A lot of the churches have magnificent art. I took a picture of a painting that's in our Sangre Chapel. It was done by a member of our congregation who recently passed away, Jerry Ego, and it symbolizes faith, fellowship, and freedom. The Umlawn Cemetery Mausoleum has a very lovely chapel. There's 4 magnificent sculptures of the 4 seasons. And the designers were Ted Niebeek and Russ Vacanti. Quite spectacular, and if you have a chance, you really should go look at them. My original idea came from going over to the school administration building. They have an art gallery at the top of the stairwell, and during the course of the year, different art projects have been put up there, and I've been extremely impressed with all the work that's up there, whether it's from the kids in kindergarten or it goes up to high school. The things are just an explosion of color and ideas, and I just think it's fabulous. The Philip Sheridan School has a community room there where they frequently do functions that related to the school district. There's a lot of pictures, all from the home school, so those would be the lower grades. Art is as important and fun as the Buffalo Sabres hockey game, and every holiday there is. Art is fun because we get to get in the paint and everything else in art class. Art makes me feel happy and excited and glad. Author is an unknown second grader. A lot of the kids get a lot of praise if they're into sports, and you don't always hear about the other things that kids are enjoying, and hopefully some of them will follow through with art in their future as they grow up. I happened to be delivering Meals on Wheels, and as far as I knew, no one had picked that topic, so well, I'll try to take a segment of that. Meals on Wheels has been in the area since 1977, and they've worked out of the Philip Sheridan Community Room for the Kenton area. They have 17 routes that the people cover. They do about 260 meals a day. They get a nice balanced meal. And they have a pool of like 430 people that volunteer during the course of the year that they can call on. But needless to say, they can always use more.
My name is Lou Mang, and the topic I chose was sort of like a day in the life of working at the Department of Public Works. I got to the garage early in the morning. You know, I wanted to show all the different people coming into work and trucks backing out and things starting to happen. There was a lot of things going on at once. One of the great things about living in Kenmore is the services you get. The DPW provides, you know, services that are second to none. I went out and got the street sweeper, because they go out early and clean the curbs. It's a big machine that goes along the curb, brushes the curb, and cleans the streets. I went and shot the trash removal. You know, that's one of the great things in Kenmore, too. You can almost put anything out there, and they'll take it. So, you know, and they do a good job, and they make exceptions for people with disabilities. They'll go and get the bin out of their yard and bring it out front. Another thing that I shot was a group of guys dragging the sewer. A lot of things go down the storm drains, and periodically they have to go down and clean that. And I think it's a dirty job, and someone's got to do it, keeping all that plumbing that's underneath the streets of Kenmore clean, so then we don't have any flooding problems. Another thing they do is tree trimming. Some of the trees get older in Kenmore and die off, so they trim off different branches or take a tree down completely. They also have a really good tree restoration, meaning they plant new trees continually around the village. Street paving is a big part of their the summer program at the Department of Public Works. They mill the streets, they take off the surface, and they put new tar down. They really do a really nice job of keeping the village clean. You really look around and you're hard-pressed to find any kind of litter or debris around. They really keep it spotless. And there's a lot of things they do that maybe you don't even notice. They put planters on Delaware Avenue, and they maintain those planters and benches. And they put in the War Memorial in Mang Park to honor all the people who served in the wars. They're sort of the pulse of the village. A lot of people look around and know that they get good services. So I wanted to kind of show how, you know, their work, you know, really beautifies the village.
Hi, my name is Rob Hoffman. I chose Ellicott Creek Park, specifically Ellicott Creek Island. I just always thought it was, you know, a nice relaxing place. When you're entering into it, there's like a nice bridge that goes over part of the creek. And until you get over the bridge, you really don't actually see the park itself. There's a gazebo toward the end of the island. There's a stairwell leading down to the waterfront. And once you got down in there, a whole space opened up. I like the way the light hit the water in certain spots. Plus, you got to see the boaters, you know, kind of coming out from behind the branches. There's a building that's abandoned on the other end of the island. It looked like it must have burned at one time. I just kind of always wondered, well, what did that look like when people actually used it? Back in like the Victorian era, you can see, you know, ladies walking around with umbrellas. It just kind of reminds me of that era. At certain times in certain areas, it was nice and peaceful.
Go get it. Go get it.
And then other times there was a lot of activity going on. There's a spot where there's like 3 large water drainage tunnels, and there's always people fishing over there. I ran into a gentleman and a little boy fishing.
I think you have something, Uncle John. Uncle John, I think you have something. I got one!
The little boy ended up pulling in a little fish like this big. There's a lot of boats moored along the side there. The people boating were just kind of cruising along, casual, enjoying the weather. If you notice, there's a lot of these big circles and X's on the trees. I actually ran into one of the forest people there, and I think he said they could have cut down like 80-some trees from the October storm. Next time someone comes through there, instead of being such a canopy, you know, there might be more open spaces. I think parks are an important part of our area. I just always like that park in particular, because as a family, that's where we used to go all the time. So I just always thought it was an interesting place, a kind of relaxing place to go.
My name is Mary Jane Uminski, and my husband Dennis and I have lived in Kenmore, Tonawanda for over 38 years. Columbia Boulevard has been a special place to raise children, a place where neighbors really care. Our street has 3 islands in the middle of it. The 3 islands have become the unifying factor of our neighborhood. We plant flowers and we plant trees and we plant shrubs and we rake and we're little farmers. As a result of making beautiful gardens on our island beds, it has inspired people to really landscape the fronts of their yards. We have a sense of pride of our property, and it says welcome. Kenmore Tonawanda has sidewalks. And sidewalks unify people. The homes are fairly close to the street, and that too gives it a sense of unification. Front porch living is just, particularly in the summer, is just so nice. We love our front porches. People congregate on the porches and they share the stories of the day. If there's something going on in the community that they want to address, they'll get together and they'll figure it out. We have lots of kids on the street, and that makes it a wonderful place to raise children and just a wonderful place to be. So many of our activities are organized, they're play dates, you know, and they're not spontaneous. But on Columbia Boulevard, you know, you just always see children just playing. For well over 60 years, we've had the Columbia Boulevard Homeowners Association. We have a newsletter that goes out to the neighbors. Everyone is always invited to all of the functions. We have a monthly bowling league, a September golf tournament, a progressive Christmas dinner with Christmas caroling. Every other year, we have a block party, and on the alternate year, we have a wine and cheese party. So we really do create some good bonds and lasting memories. We don't have sprawling backyards, we don't have sprawling estates, but we have some of the most unique backyards. Intimate, cozy retreat areas that people have designed in their backyards in Kenmore. The town has an annual garden walk, and for the last 2 years, Columbia Boulevard as a street has been on the garden walk. Sometimes we'll have a neighborhood block sale, and it's just lots of fun.
So that's a story, that's a Columbia story.
Which house did you live in?
84.
Oh, okay.
My husband and I were walking in Kenmore one day, and there was a business owner who was having a fundraiser for hospice. It reminded me what a caring community we have. The way we remain strong really is through strong neighborhoods and strong communities. There are certain ingredients in a strong neighborhood, and there's a sense of security, a sense of belonging, a sense of knowing each other, and a sense of caring and compassion. It just makes it a very nice place to live. The motto of the town of Tonawanda is that Tonawanda is a great place to live, work, and play. And that's exactly what we have found. And that is exactly why we have stayed.
broadcast of Our Town Kenmore Tonawanda is made possible by the generous support of Wynwood of Kenmore, an assistive living community designed to provide housing, personal care, and services to older adults who want to retain their independence while receiving daily support from a caring, trained staff. And by the members of WNED. Thank you.